We had a corporate event at work dedicated to the 10th anniversary of the founding of our organization. The managers decided to celebrate the event by renting one of the halls of a prestigious restaurant for the employees. My wife was unable to join me, as she was busy at work, but I felt obliged to attend. The event was fairly quiet and unremarkable. The usual corporate meeting where conversations were polite but uninspired, and most of those present seemed more focused on keeping up appearances than truly enjoying themselves. There was a lack of energy or enthusiasm that could have made it memorable, and I felt detached from the atmosphere. All the staff, including the bosses, held themselves with dignity to avoid reputational risks. There was pleasant music, thoughtful toasts, and intellectual conversations. The management clearly sought to impress with a variety of fine food and drink, including some exotic dishes that pleasantly surprised many of those present. The decorations were elegant, with soft lighting and floral arrangements that added a touch of sophistication. Eventually, the bosses left, and a few others followed suit. The remaining crowd consisted of mostly non-drinkers who broke into small groups and dispersed around the room. Conversations became more and more casual. Laughter and chatter filled the air. I decided to go outside for some fresh air and a smoke. The cool, moist night air was refreshing. Nearby, I noticed a group of young women, and to my surprise, one of them was my wife's sister, Eleanor. She stood out with a radiant smile lighting up her face, and her eyes sparkled with warmth when she noticed me. She looked stunning that evening, dressed in an elegant black dress that accentuated her features. I wasn't about to interrupt her, but she noticed me, smiled, and came over to say hello. I'd always found Eleanor charming, though I'd only met her after I'd already dated her sister. She asked what brought me to the restaurant, and I told her about a corporate event. In response, I asked why she was there. It turned out that her friend was getting married, and they were celebrating in the next room. We crossed paths a few times during the evening, but didn't speak, only exchanging smiles from a distance. Every now and then I would see her laughing with her friends, and her happiness was conveyed even from a distance. As the night was coming to an end, I went outside to hail a cab. At that moment, I saw Eleanor coming out of the restaurant. She came up to me and said she was very happy to see me, although she had to go home. I offered to call her a cab, but she refused, explaining that she lived nearby, just behind the park, and preferred to walk. Wanting to show chivalrous care, I offered to walk her home. She agreed with a warm smile, and we set off together. The atmosphere in the park at night was romantic and a little mysterious. The light rustling of leaves in the wind created a soothing melody, and the faint fragrance of blossoming flowers gave the air a delicate sweetness. In the distance, crickets chirped and the occasional owl hooted, adding to the serene nighttime symphony. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting soft shadows on the path. We walked slowly, enjoying the quiet summer evening. A cool breeze blew, and noticing that Eleanor was shivering, I threw my jacket over her shoulders. She wrapped her arms around herself for warmth. Her cheeks flushed slightly from the cold. We talked about everything and nothing, from childhood memories of summer vacations by the lake to the problems we each faced in our current lives. She reminisced about learning to ride a bike. Her laughter filled the air as she recalled her many falls, and I recounted how I spent hours building forts in the woods. It was a natural conversation, as if not even a minute had passed since we last met. Suddenly she let out a cry of pain and collapsed to the ground. She had stepped on a pebble and twisted her ankle. Her ankle immediately swelled, and she grimaced in discomfort, saying she couldn't walk. Her face showed disappointment and embarrassment, and I reassured her by smiling gently. I picked her up in my arms and carried her the short distance to her apartment. She led me through the dimly lit streets, her voice soft as she gave directions. Once inside, she directed me to the living room, where I gently laid her down on the couch. Following her directions, I hurried to the kitchen, grabbed a frozen piece of meat from the freezer and wrapped it in a towel to use as a makeshift ice pack. Walking back to her, I sat down at her feet and placed a cold compress on her swollen ankle. She wrinkled her nose slightly, but then relaxed and quietly thanked. As I sat there, my hand instinctively stroked her knee in a comforting gesture. We exchanged glances filled with an intensity that cannot be conveyed in words. For some reason, my hand began to wander higher. Eleanor didn't stop me. Instead, she slowly leaned back, her eyes meeting mine with unspoken understanding. The air between us was charged, and it felt like this moment had been building between us for years. neither of us could resist the attraction any longer. The apartment was silent, except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock, and the silence enhanced the intimacy of the moment, making it feel as if the world around us had ceased to exist. It was a connection defying logic that neither of us could ignore. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new, exciting stories.